Hey, welcome back, everybody. Today we're talking about sustainability and what exactly makes up a green community. And we're going to start off with the definition. The UN defines sustainability as the ability to satisfy the basic needs of today without compromising the ability of future generations to satisfy their needs. In other words, sustainability is really about identifying how people can live in harmony with their surroundings. There's a couple of ways that we go about measuring this. We start with what's called the triple bottom line, or the 3BL. Basically, sustainability is commonly simplified to a formula of a combination of people, the planet, and prosperity. There's obviously overlap there, but you have to make sure that all three cohabitate together. So the next thing that we're going to look at is the sustainability index. Now, the sustainability index actually measures how a community shapes up based on certain criteria. And here's a quick look at these criteria. Number one, length of average commute to work. Number two, what's the air quality like in that community? Number three, we're going to take into account the surface water runoff. Number four, greenhouse gas emissions. Number five, carpooling, car sharing initiatives. How much time do you spend in the car, and are you teaming up with other people to get where you need to go? The next one after that is public transportation. How well is the community providing public transportation to get where you need to do and cut back on emissions? The next one, local food and agriculture availability. In other words, do you have a community market like we have here in Lynchburg that it supports the community farmers and growers, and it's a valuable resource to have. The next one, road congestion. You spend a lot of time just sitting in traffic. And then also the percentage of the city's fleet, such as the trucks, the buses, cars that are owned by the city that use alternative fuels. And then finally, each city has its own sustainability department and development plans. So this index really takes these things into account. So that's going to take us to the next part, which is the National Association of Realtors has established 5 principles regarding smart growth. The first of these principles has to deal with, number one, make a commitment to housing opportunity and choice of a wide range of urban, suburban, and rural homes at prices, at all different price ranges. You shouldn't have to be wealthy to afford a home in a community. And whether or not that's renting or owning, that's a whole different matter, but you should still have housing available to you. And number two, build better communities with good schools, low crime, quality public services, efficient transportation systems, simple and ample recreation areas. Is there green space, parks for people to go to, open spaces. The next one is strong employment base and a viable commercial sector. Are there jobs in the area? Principle number 3, we're looking at protecting the environment by controlling pollution and encouraging the preservation of natural resources and properties of historical significance. Here in Lynchburg, we have a historic district, and people within the community have taken great pains and sacrifices and invested a lot of money to bring these beautiful old homes back up to their splendor. And it's beautiful, so you should really take a look at our historic district sometime and see the work that's taken place within the last 10 to 20 years. Number 4, we have to look at, this is a big one for me, respecting the constitutional rights to freely own, use, and transfer real property. And none of this stuff matters if people aren't free to own and dispose of property as they choose. And finally, number 5, implement fair and reasonable public sector fiscal measures. In other words, financial responsibility, imagine that, to ensure that the cost of new infrastructure is shared proportionally among those served. And it's no different from if you're living in Iowa, are you paying for some community development project in Washington, D.C.? We don't think that that's reasonable, and it's the same way within a community. If you have a certain part of the community that's going to use either certain forms of transportation, parks, things like that, and other parts are not serviced by those, then we feel that those using those services should pay for those things. And then once we get beyond that, there's a couple other things that we look at in the community. Walkability. How easy is it to walk where you need to go or ride a bike? And while you're doing that, it's not just is there a sidewalk, but within that context, do you feel safe when you're walking? Is there a buffer between the traffic and the walk space? And this could be with planting trees or shrubs or things like that just so that people feel safe as they're walking back and forth. The next one has to do with revitalizing what we call gray zones and brown zones. Brown zones are a whole different animal because chances are there's toxic waste on those properties that need to be dealt with within the community and the Environmental Protection Agency. Gray zones are simply old abandoned malls that have, by gray we're talking about a lot of parking lot, a big parking space that it's an eyesore, it's not being used. This can either be from shopping malls, these can be old abandoned drive-in theaters, or even military bases. We don't have a lot of those here. There are a couple, but we don't have a significant share as some places do. The next point to kind of make the path toward a greener community deals with urban infill. There's been a huge push in Lynchburg to revitalize the Main Street downtown area. And there's a reason for this, because as you relax some of the tax burden on these businesses, it encourages business owners to move in, provide goods and services, which allows auxiliary services to come in and encourages people to come down and visit, to shop, and then that brings people who want to live down there. As parks are redeveloped, there's arts and entertainment down there, dining and recreation. All these things bring people back in, and these do. It's more than just revitalizing an area, but it's the whole concept of once people get back down to the area, they're paying more, they're paying taxes, they're buying goods and services, they're supporting local businesses and local vendors, and it also builds and breeds a safer community. The more people are in the area, the safer it's going to be because there's a real awareness, whereas if it's just an old abandoned area, there's really no one watching what's going on. And we're seeing a vast improvement of that downtown, so that's extremely encouraging. The next thing we want to look at is preserving open space and green space in new developments. In my opinion, we have a couple big new developments here in the area. One of the things that I feel could have been improved was, instead of just making businesses on the outside and then some condos and townhomes and then some residential properties, it would have been great if these had supported a large green space or park in the middle that may have had some water feature, like a small pond, protected walkways, and things like that. These Windhurst and Cornerstone, they do contain some of these things, but it would be nice moving forward if we see more green space that's actually preserved and becomes a bigger part of our community. And then finally, just naturescaping. Essentially, naturescaping is nothing more than landscaping, whether it be in a community area or green space, or even with your individual home, as this relates to you, whether you're looking to buy or sell a home. A naturescaping versus landscaping. Landscaping is just designing your yard to be something that's beautiful for you. Naturescaping is taking into account the native plants and grasses, things that will support birds and small mammals and things like that that are native to the area. Naturescaping supports those things rather than just clear cutting everything and building something just because you like it. And the other thing that does is it protects that area from other species of plants and animals that may not be indigenous. It limits things like kudzu and hopefully those nasty stink bugs and things like that. But anyway, this is just some food for thought as we started digging deeper into what actually makes a green community green. So we'll just look for you for our next segment. I appreciate you stopping by and checking this out. Talk to you soon.